Hello, I'm Adriana and welcome. This reading is for someone who needs help today. As I've gone on my own journey to raise my vibration and become a channel for a vessel, really, for information from the other side, I've come to understand that my own gifts are about helping on the individual level. So this reading is to help you so you can bring positive energy back into your community. All right, now I want to take a second for us to connect our energies so I can know who I'm talking to and be sure that I'm on the right track with your information. So I'm just going to ask you to breathe into your heart space. Sometimes it can help to put the hand on the heart just so you know where you're putting that energy. And concentrate on the feeling of what's going on with your feet right now. Are they touching the floor? Are all 10 toes on the floor? Are your heels on the floor? And just allowing this energy to kind of settle all the way down to your feet. Okay, so please show me who I'm talking to and show me what's going on. All right, I am talking to a Knight of Water. And what's going on? Eight of Earth, Elder of Earth, and Death. Okay, now when we are looking at the Knight of Water, what's striking me first is that there's, I don't know how to say this nicely, you're a dramatic person. When you're asked to change or to do something, there's just a lot of blah, a lot of, everything is a big deal, okay? Everything is kind of magnified, larger than life. And it's very easy for you to get lost in the emotionality, the moodiness of what's going on with you. When you're asked to do things that you don't want to do, your mood can go really, really sour. You're not the type of person just to do something because you want to, or because someone's asking you to do it, or you know you have to do it. You're the type of person who has to feel very deeply that this is the right thing for you to do. You're very in touch with your emotions. You're very in touch with the emotions of others. But this can work for and against you, because others' emotions tend to get blown out of proportion within you. So they're feeling something, you also feel it too, but what you end up feeling is more than what they were feeling in the first place. It's also very easy for you to give away your own heart. There's a lot of sensitivity that you have, and especially if someone is suffering, or especially if someone is hurting, you give a lot of yourself away. And then you tend to get very upset when either they don't get better or they don't respond. And because there's this overgiving that happens, you tend to just be completely drained. And then it seems like to other people that you kind of resort into this, into like your own bitchiness. But really you're just overwhelmed, and you're trying to give yourself space without knowing how to give yourself space. So what's going on right now? We've got the Death card, Elder of Earth, and Eight of Earth. So you have got a... It seems like there's a relationship right in front of you that is asking you to maybe go in a direction that you don't like to go. There is some resistance about this relationship. Can you tell me a little bit more about the relationship before we go into the next? This is complicated because you're taking some baggage from a previous relationship into this one, and you're overlaying your past experience on top of this new relationship. And so really, from a spiritual standpoint, the problem here is not so much what is going on with the new relationship, what didn't happen with the old relationship, but the fact that it's all tangled together. It's all tangled together right now. And this is interesting because the other two cards, Eight of Earth and Elder of Earth, do you see how her roots are much more organized and separated? And she's kind of holding both of them separately. Whereas this one, there's like roots coming out of everywhere. She's over-connected, she's over-committed, and she's over-involved in both sides. So you don't know what she's doing, really. Is she involved with the growing plant? Is she involved with the roots of the plant? How are the bees relating to her? So what's happening right now is that your expectations, your resentments, I'm going to be blunt, and I'm going to say it's an incomplete understanding of what happened in the previous relationship is really coloring the way you're looking at not only this new relationship, but the world. There's significant trust issues going on. There are significant anger at yourself. You feel like you betrayed yourself. You didn't allow yourself to see what you think you should have seen. You know that you overgave. And so there's a lot of unresolved energy here. And unfortunately, this energy is pulling you down, where it's like life is sending you lemonades, but you're separating the sugar and the water from it, and you're just taking back the lemon juice. You're only focusing on, it's not even what's comfortable. I'm struggling to find a way to describe this to you. You're focusing on what didn't work out. You're focusing on what didn't happen. And it's going up. I'm going to have to get some more cards. It's going beyond self-fulfilling prophecy, because really it is a big misunderstanding on the spiritual level, not what was going on in your world, but on the other side of this, what your soul was truly learning. That's where you're stuttering a bit, and that's why these doors, you're not willing to walk through this door. Okay, so what was the spiritual meaning of that relationship? Okay, the Star, the Tower, cards in sequence, and the Chariot. There was a lot of disappointment in that previous relationship, and you went on for so long ignoring or holding that disappointment at bay, just trying to hold things together, the Chariot, keeping it moving forward. And it's almost like you were willing the relationship forward. And what you were learning was, by stepping so far out of who you are, because you had to become someone else. You had to become, I want to say, like 2 or 3 other people to just keep this relationship going. By allowing all of that to break down and crumble, you finally learned who you were. You finally learned how, by tearing yourself apart, you learned how to put yourself back together. And the Tower is destructive, but the Star is renewal, it's hope, it's rebuilding. It's after a fire goes through and destroys everything, it's rebuilding in a better, stronger way. And it's also trying to teach you that you can't just force or will your way through a relationship. Because you have a certain way you want the relationship to go, you can't just force that to happen. That was a peripheral message for you. It was also trying to teach you, because it's so natural for you to overextend, you don't really understand where natural extension is. So all of that, all of those personas you took on, all of those responsibilities, all of those selves you took on, all of that had to break apart, and you feel like it's yourself dying. You feel like it was yourself being torn down. But what really was happening was, it wasn't the true you being torn down. It was all of the faces and masks and personas obscuring the real you that you were taking down. It's like one of those little Russian dolls. You were really the doll at the very center, but you were wearing all of these bigger and bigger layers. And so, you know what's really interesting about the Russian doll is that when you're on the outside of the doll, and I hope you know what I'm talking about, it's the set of dolls that nest, and you pull them off. They've got two halves, bottom half, top half, and so you pull one apart, then there's another doll in there, and you pull that one apart. When you get to the one in the center, you can't pull her apart. She's completely whole. But all of those other ones you can tear apart, you can demolish, right? So if these selves are being demolished, if they're being torn apart, they're not really you. And so you're mourning the loss of all of these identities and selves that were never you. And what you're left with right now, we've got the purity of the swan. What you're left with right now is the purity of yourself. And that, I believe, is all of these cards together, the death card, the star, Elder of Earth. You are left with the pure essence of you right now. And that is the biggest gift, because not only do you gain so much by knowing who you are and loving who you are and embracing who you are, when you get into that space, you can finally attract someone who will do all those things for you as well. And not just one person, friends, other people in the world, other jobs, just other ways of being that are more authentic. And so this has been a long process for you, a painful process, although it does feel like when it ended quickly. It didn't, the ending itself didn't drag on, but your connection to it, you're holding on to it, you're mourning for it, has taken a very long time, and it's taken a lot out of you. And I want to say it's affected your sleeping patterns. If you have struggled with anxiety or have not been able to sleep well, this is why. So giving you the clarity of understanding that this whole experience was to break down the false selves so that the real self can emerge. That is the beauty of what you've been through. That is the pain and the beauty of what you've been through. Any last advice? Judgment and the Elder of Air. So as you're moving on from the past, as you're trying to assimilate all of this and really digest it, make sure that you are doing this from a place of feeling detached. If you're still feeling strong emotions when you're talking about this, and strong negative emotions, you're not coming from the right place. Oh, hang on a second. I'm getting a different... They're wanting me to go a different way with this. This is about taking the initiative to cut yourself off from the past. To just say, okay, that was where I was. That's what I did. I am ending my connection with my past selves. I am ending the connection with what unfolded in the past, because if you stay connected through your identity, through your expectations with what happened in the past, then you will be unable to go into your future free of baggage, free of this lower vibration stuff in you, and it's going to be very hard to maneuver. So they're literally saying, take up the sword, take the leadership, take up the sword and cut this off. So there may also be some just practical boundaries that you need to make, getting rid of anything that reminds you of these old selves or the other person. Possibly if you're still in contact with them or anyone from that part of that you're going to have to use your discretion, but you may consider some distance with that as well, if not eventually cutting it off. But it's making sure you're doing whatever you have to do to make a clean break from the past. Because if you're holding on to any part of the past, then you're continuing to bring that past into the present. And that means the next time it's time for a tower, it's going to be even stronger. The breakdown will be even stronger, because at that point, it's like its hold on you will have increased. if you like to garden, or or just think of this metaphor, when it's a baby plant, when it's small, it's easy to pull it out because the weeds aren't so strong. But if you try to uproot a whole tree, it's had years and decades to grow. It takes a lot. It's very difficult to pull up a tree. I can't do that with my 2 hands, but I can pull out a tiny weed. All right, so the longer you hold on to this baggage, the more it becomes like that tree. And when you go to uproot it, it's difficult, it's chaotic, it's very disruptive to the soil around it. And it's harder than it needs to be for you. So make that clean break. Understand this was all for you, and that you've got so much support on this journey for yourself from your higher self. Okay, to close, if we can just take a second to thank the energies that came through for you today, and thank the forces that will continue to help you as you move forward. All right, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.